Hey guys, welcome to The Strong Young Man. The Western world has been living in a state of abundance for nearly 80 years. The last time food was rationed in Australia and other first world nations was during World War II. In Australia, rationing regulations for food and clothing were introduced in 1942 to manage shortages and control civilian consumption. Rationing in Australia was much less harsh than in the United Kingdom, where a blockade of the North Atlantic by German U-boats resulted in huge shortages of food. This caused heavy rationing regulations to be imposed on the British population. Today there is no such imposition. Even during the coronavirus pandemic, the restrictions weren't this bad. Most people made it worse than it had to be by panic buying and hoarding essentials such as sugar, flour, toilet paper, and even hoarding gasoline in garbage bags. Ironically, the fat people were the retards who hoarded essentials the most. This actually makes sense, as this is a gluttonous behaviour, the same tendency that saw them become fat as fuck to begin with. Most of the world today is obese, and these people could last a whole year or more without a single morsel of food. See Angus Barberi's 382-day fast for supporting evidence. Understand that it's in human nature to consume food, especially foods high in salt, sugar and fat. These foods elicit a dopamine surge in the brain, which reinforces this behaviour. Historically, the environment and our nutrient sensor signalling hormones regulated our ability to consume the calorie-dense foods that we evolved to crave. In times of abundance, such as warm summers or in the tropics, our ancestors ate every morsel of food they could comfortably stomach during daylight. Their attitude to food consumption was to eat the whole fruit or the whole animal, nose to tail. Despite sometimes consuming more food than they needed to survive, their attitude was not gluttonous. They only hunted and gathered what they needed for the day. Sometimes they consumed food in excess, but this was so no food went to waste. This would sustain them over the next few days, to which they didn't have to hunt. Periods of feasting were always balanced out by periods of fasting. This is not gluttonous behaviour. Gluttony is more than just about excess consumption of food. It's about having the wrong attitude entirely to anything you can consume. It's to consume copious amounts of something without periods of no consumption. Here are some examples of gluttonous behaviour. Taking more food than you need only to throw it out. Eating before other family members sit down at the table, even if you aren't eating in excess. Excessive consumption of alcohol or binge drinking. Excessive consumption of online content, including YouTube, movies and Netflix. Any addiction that you consume in excess without periods of abstinence, including porn, sex, smoking and drugs. And allowing anything that releases dopamine to dominate and control your life without a dopamine detox. The word glutton is used to portray someone who eats because they want food rather than they need food. Gluttony is a sin, but it's also going to kill you. Gluttonous consumption of food is terrible for your health, and you should seriously consider cultivating your discipline and going periods where you restrict all food. When food is plentiful, humans and animals grow, but also age quickly. It is obvious that eating more food will result in more growth, and this should be encouraged in any phase of life that you're intending to grow. But for an adult, periods of growth must be balanced out with periods of deprivation in order to remain healthy. If this doesn't happen, the body will continue to grow, most likely in a lateral direction, but it can also enable other kinds of growth, such as cancer. Consuming excess calories increases the generation of free radicals, which have been demonstrated to cause cancer. Gluttony will result in mitochondrial dysfunction, which can lead to all kinds of health problems, including the biggest killers, cardiovascular disease, stroke, and diabetes. On the other hand, deprivation increases brain-derived neurotropic factor, which plays a key role in creating new neurons and protecting existing neurons, safeguarding the brain against neurodegenerative diseases such as dementia and Alzheimer's. Food deprivation extends the lifespan of every single organism that has been tested. One recent study in 2020 found that calorie restriction induces longevity in humans by positively affecting energy metabolism, oxidative damage, inflammation, glucose homeostasis, and functional changes in the neuroendocrine systems. This restriction has its limits. Starvation and nutrient depletion cause disability and eventually death. The best solution to health and longevity is to ensure that you consume a healthy diet that optimizes nutrient intake, which also balances out periods of growth with periods of deprivation. This should of course be done in a way that is not gluttonous. Abstention is the virtue that opposes gluttony, and it is so powerful if you can obtain mastery over your impulses to consume. Apply abstention to other areas of your life where you have a gluttonous attitude, and not only will you counter your gluttony, but you'll also make the activity more enjoyable when you do allow yourself an indulgence. Thanks for watching today's episode. In episode 98, I'll be talking about sloth. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when it drops. Catch you then.